This is Car Guys New England, your YouTube channel for anything automotive. This is Jay with Car Guys New England, and today we're going to talk about the Murcielago and the LP640. Just some common issues that people have had with them. I've had a few of these issues, but let's go through them and just prepare people for if you're going to own one of these beautiful cars, just some of the things to look out for. So, as many of you know that the bigger Lamborghinis and the more modern Lamborghinis have a front lift system. And the way it works is power steering fluid basically is diverted into the shocks, and then the vehicle will lift up. The problem is and this, I couldn't find the line, but if you open the front bonnet and remove, there's like a piece of carpeting. On the earlier Murcielagos, there's an issue with a hose that ends up expanding to the point where it starts leaking. And it's a lot easier to fix before you start having a problem. So that is one issue to look out for with the Murcielago, is the front lift hose bursting. So keep an eye out for that. Again, the LP640, I couldn't find that particular tube on mine, so I think they corrected that issue. So another issue that affects first generation Murcielagos and the LP640s, coupe or roadster, there is a cooling line that is buried way down. I think you can see part of the replacement one down there near the tip of my finger. If you can see that there, I'm not 100% sure. We'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I believe that's the line there. You can kind of see it. But that line is prone to end up bursting on you. And when that happens, it's going to create a huge mess. One of the telltale signs of it, obviously, is the antifreeze is going to smoke a lot. Also, you're going to get a stream of coolant pouring out behind your passenger door. Very common problem, big pain in the ass to fix as far as getting your hands in there. So just something to be aware of on the Lamborghini Murcielagos and LP640s. And another engine related thing just to point out to you guys. Once your car starts getting close to the 30,000 mile mark, you're going to need valve adjustments made on the car. I've kind of already played around with that because this car sat for a while, and somebody must have started it up dry and it caused some damage to the cams. So I ended up correcting that, and that cost a pretty penny, but just something to be aware of, that you know, a valve adjustment job, you're probably looking at close to maybe $3,000 to take it all apart and correctly time it again using the correct Lamborghini tools. Make sure that you use those, or that whoever's doing it uses those when they time this particular engine. But just another thing to be aware of. Another very well known issue is the door struts. And it's kind of cool in my garage right now, but usually when they're worn, they won't go up. And that's a very common problem in these cars. Luckily, the struts are pretty cheap, but it is an absolute pain in the butt to replace these. So just another thing to be aware of, you know, with these particular cars. Also on the Roadster, the rear bonnet struts. Luckily, these are inexpensive and very easily replaced, but that's something that you're definitely going to want to address if you end up with a bonnet that won't stay up. And this is a fairly light bonnet to begin with, so you know, it's just pretty crazy that the struts don't last particularly long for that. But again, very easy to replace. Just an issue to be aware of that if you're looking at one of these cars. So another common issue on these cars is the doors, this latch mechanism. Make sure that these screws are tight. because they can loosen up and then you won't be able to open the door. And I've read a lot on the forums, other people having those particular issues. So another issue on these particular cars can be the window regulators, can be an issue. Also the pinch protection. I did a video on the issues I was having with my passenger side window. By leaving the windows up though, it seems to make that problem go away. So that's what I've been doing. That's why the windows are up here. As with all Italian cars, they're known for their sticky switches, especially the switches up around here. These ones feel very sticky, and also you can see that the power window ones are kind of worn. That's a common thing on all Italian cars, unfortunately. There is somebody that can address that issue for you. And if you do some Googling, you can find them. But just another thing just to be aware of, guys. And just so you know, too, this one, if this is worn out, to replace that, that's like a $1,500 switch cluster. Not cheap at all. All right, and then another thing to be really aware of, and I recommend that before you buy a car, make sure that this recall was completed. There was a recall on the gas tank itself in the car, and I guess there were some bad welds in the vehicles that were affected by this particular recall, and it would cause leaking of gasoline out of the car, which obviously is a huge fire hazard and something that you don't want to deal with, you know, as far as the car burning to the ground. Possibly burning in your garage, damaging your house. Just something to think about and to be aware of. Another recall that you should be aware of are the rotor hat rivets. We're failing on some cars and they're affected by recall. So that's definitely something that you'd want to get checked out. It is a factory or a dealership, I should say, recall. So make sure that that was completed on the vehicle as well, especially if you drive the car in the rain or the salt, which you're kind of crazy in my opinion if you're out driving a car like this in the salt, but that's, you know, that's your choice. But anyways, yeah, make sure that you get this checked out, and that's the actual rivet heads on the rotor hat. And as I've mentioned in the other videos, another problem is clutch life in these cars. Some people are saying that they're averaging around 10,000 miles a clutch. That may be true. There are certain things that you can do as far as your driving style to get more out of your clutch. But if you are ever having to replace the clutch in the car, just remember, it's a full engine out job. It's not like a Ferrari where you just drop the transmission off. Basically, this engine's almost in there backwards compared to a Ferrari, so your transmission is that way. And so the whole transmission, the whole engine, whoop, comes right out. And that can be a very costly job. So if you do that, I highly recommend getting a Kevlar clutch. You'll get about 3 times the life out of that. So that's about 30,000 miles. So you should really look into doing that. Highly advise that. But do your research on what brand that you go with, whatever you decide. And just something to be aware of. And another issue would be the headlights. And what ends up happening is somehow they end up fogging inside the glass. And these are permanently sealed headlights, so you're going to need a specialist to take these things apart. Otherwise, you'd have to buy new headlights, and they cost a pretty penny. And another issue on at least my car, and I've seen a few others online, would be when you hit the alarm key fob. You don't hear anything, and I think that's a faulty or failing alarm siren on these cars. It's not too expensive to replace, and it's located somewhere in the front bumper. Actually, I think it's on the driver's side. I could be wrong, but that's just another common issue as well. So as you can see, these are some of the common issues with the Murcielago and LP640s. Don't let that discourage you, but just be aware of some of these issues. Some of them can be pretty costly. So if you're thinking about buying one, make sure that you get a PPI done, a pre-purchase inspection, and drive the car, enjoy it. They're a lot of fun to drive. Yeah, they do have their quirks, but it's a cool Lamborghini, and they're a lot of fun. So anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. If you have comments, questions, feel I missed something, put it down below. And if you're not subscribing, be sure to subscribe. And also, thank you to all of our subscribers. We really appreciate all those subscribes. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Anyways, this is Car Guys New England. Until next time, take care.